Hi folks, Ricky Tang here, and just a little quick bonus video on my new BMW S1000XR. Now, I should be at the ABR Festival, and I did go there. Went there Thursday night, spent half Friday there as well, which is today. But basically I decided I'd rather be at home playing with my brand new bike than being at the ABR. Because the sun's out. So here I am. I'm planning to go back to the ABR tomorrow. As is customary with me, with a new bike in the shed, I tried to see what bits I had lying around in the shed that I could throw at the bike. So I'm wearing a screen, which has been on everything from my 300 Versys to my R1250R, maybe even the S1000R a few years ago. Doesn't seem to be making much of a difference, and I'm not very surprised. It is adjustable though, so I will stop and have a little twiddle around with it. Oh, certainly louder down than up. Alright, there might be a little bit of a chance it could do something for me. I've taken off the main sat-nav preparation, the main sat-nav plate, because I haven't got a sat-nav. And I've lashed up an adapter that goes on like the sat-nav loop that's above the clocks. So my phone's on there. It's not ideal, but it'll do for starters. Also, powering the phone is kind of an adapter that plugs in to the plug the sat-nav was using. And that gives me a USB output essentially. So that's the phone powered and sorted. I got down here Ultimate Add-ons DIN adapter, because there's a DIN socket there. So that gives me two more USBs. I wouldn't use them both at the same time though, not to power cameras, because I burnt one of these out before. Literally broke it trying to power two cameras at the same time. Anything else I've added to the bike apart from the screen, the power supply for the phone, the Ultimate Add-ons adapter, the SW Motec tank bag, the Givey rack. I think that's all of it so far. So as you may know, last year I had an accident and wrote off my BMW R1250R, which I love dearly. And that bike I'd had for about, I think, 12,000 miles. So yeah, I knew that bike well. And it did pretty much everything I wanted it to do. There was just a couple of things that were starting to grate a little bit. A, the weight of the bike is not a light bike. It's I think 239 kilos before you start adding accessories to it, and I had a few accessories added. So it's quite a weight to push around in the back garden with the engine not running. Anyway, you had to push it with the engine off. It was becoming a bit of a chore. The thing that outweighed the weight was the engine. I absolutely love that Boxer twin engine, and I love the low and mid-range torque that even this can't match. However, I was missing a little bit of the top end zing that I had on my previous bike to the R1250, which was the S1000 single R. S1000R pretty much has the same engine that's in this bike, and that kind of lack of top end on the 1250 motor was noticed most clearly on track days. Now obviously the R1250 is not a great bike for track days, but I had a brilliant time using it on track days. It was a lot of fun. But A, yeah, the top end power was lacking. B, it's not the best track bike. C, it was naked. And so every time you try to go fast, you're always battling the wind, and to some extent you do that on the road as well. So I was looking for something practical like the 1250, because it could take luggage, it could go long distances, but be sporty or sportier than the 1250. Holy crap! And also have a fairing. So I've been racking my brains for a good 8-9 months trying to work out what would follow the 1250. And this was on my you know, wish list as well, but it had to be the right spec, and bikes in this specific spec with a lower suspension and the M Sport with the forged wheels, they don't come up very often. So there was every chance I could have bought something before one of these became available for sale somewhere. More recently, I even started to ignore my rules, my self-imposed rules for my next bike, and I even considered a Kawasaki ZH2. Yes, that's naked, but it's got a ridiculous amount of power. So I thought that'll be something rather special to enjoy owning. And I even considered a Suzuki Hayabusa. I know, but that's not upright, and I prefer an upright riding position, but I thought that'll be a special thing to own as well. So my plans for my next bike, my wants were kind of shifting a bit. But then I got some insurance quotes for the Hayabusa and the ZH2. The ZH2 was cheaper, but it was £1,400 fully comp. The Hayabusa was £2,000. And the XR, actually, the quote was more like £700. So this bike is basically half the price to insure than a ZH2. That played in this bike's favour quite a lot. And then, yeah, I saw this bike for sale at a bike shop in Hull, 200 miles away from home. Oh, how could I afford this bike anyway? I'd recently sold my private car. So I had a Skoda Octavia RS or VRS in the UK, and sold that recently because I've been fortunate enough to get a company car for the first time ever. So I didn't need two cars, so I sold the Skoda. And when I went to Miles Kingsport in Hull to talk about this bike, they asked if I had a bike to trade in, and I said, well, actually, yes, I have got a KTM 390 Adventure, which I'm looking to sell or trade. Now, you never get a great price trading compared to selling privately, but it is easier, it's less hassle, and they'll just take it off your hands there and then. So the KTM, they said, yeah, we'll have that. They looked at the online trading guide, and they offered me £4,000 for it. I was expecting a trading offer of maybe, you know, 3.5 or even less. So yes, a deal was done to get this bike. So yeah, what's it like compared to the 1250? Well, first thing is, it's basically not really any lighter than the 1250. Maybe 10 kilograms lighter, perhaps. And I got to admit, when I'm pushing this bike around in the back garden, it feels more top heavy, unsurprisingly, than the R1250 did. With that boxer engine, all the weight's down low, or a lot of it. With an inline 4-cylinder, the weight is understandably higher up. And we've also got a 20-litre fuel tank, which I'm grateful for. I like big fuel tanks, but yeah, it adds to the top heaviness when you're pushing the bike around dead weight. But on the road, when you're riding, maybe the combination of the centre of gravity being higher and the forged wheels, it feels a lot lighter to ride. The steering is a lot more neutral. Couldn't do this on the R1250, not so easily. So it's flickable, feels light. And I know when I look down, there's a large expanse of plastic in front of me. It looks big, but it doesn't feel big. The rider triangle, it's a bit more upright than the R1250 was. So I'm sat upright, the bars feel closer than the R1250 as well. So, you know, it's a bit more adventure styled, crossover styled. The R1250 was definitely a conventional roadster type bike. Which do I like better? I do like this upright riding position, especially now I'm protected, well, partially anyway, by a fairing. I've owned big naked bikes for the last 5 years, and now I've got something with a fairing, and I've got to be honest with you, I'm really happy. Because on a naked bike, as the speed increases, you're just battling wind blasts all the time, and I don't want to kind of crouch down like a racer on the road. So you go through phases, don't you, of what kind of bike you like. I definitely enjoyed my naked bike phase at the time, but yeah, the naked thing was wearing a bit thin. And although I haven't really scratched the surface of what this bike can do yet in any meaningful way, I think there's, yeah, obviously a lot more capability in this chassis than the R1250 had. So I'm looking forward to finding out what this bike can do, especially on track. The seat though, yeah, it looks like a torture device. It's okay up to an hour. That's all I've managed to do in one sitting so far. One sitting. But you start to feel it after an hour. People have also commented that the normal height seat and the comfort seat, they have more cushioning in the back, and what they tend to do is push the rider forward into the tank. I definitely don't want that either. So it may be that this low seat is the right shape, the best shape, but not best for comfort. I think there's also other options to consider, like sergeant seats and Wunderlich seats, but again, plenty of money required for those options. But what about the engine? I haven't got that massive mid-range now that the R1250 had, considering that engine was like 25% bigger than this one. And there are times, literally already in the last 3 days, I've been in third or fourth gear, opening the throttle for acceleration, and I've hit the throttle stop. I've run out of throttle. But I don't think that's the bike's fault. I think that's Euro 5's fault. I think the butterflies are not opening fully, essentially. They're only giving me what the bureaucrats in Europe want to give me. So I know the bike's capable of more. And if you've watched any videos from BHP Tuning that feature this bike, you know there's a pretty sizable mid-range in this bike. That's just a decat away. So, talking of decats, in the shed at home, I've got Black Widow headers already. They arrived on the same day the bike did. I've got a set of Black Widow headers for the XR. Now, I don't know when they're going to go on. It might be weeks away, months away. Just need the time to do it. I should be able to do it myself, but I do have a tendency of rushing things and breaking things. So I might get someone better than me to do it. The promise of that fat mid-range from BHP Tuning's videos was just too tempting to ignore. But I do have a dilemma. If I decat the bike, then I probably won't be allowed on any UK track days, or not very many, because most of them have a noise limit. And if I keep that standard M Sport Akrapovic silencer on the back, which essentially is straight through, and I fit decat headers, the bike's going to be too loud for most track days. Maybe even for unlimited track days potentially. They might just go, mate, you're too loud. I know we said no limit, but you're taking the mickey. I've got a mission, and that mission is to somehow end up with the decat headers fitted, with that fat mid-range, and the kind of unleashed performance that comes with an ECU flash. But at the same time, somehow I need it quiet enough to get on UK track days. I don't know how I'm going to manage that, and I don't know if it is manageable, but that's my mission, and I'll be documenting it on YouTube. So in summary to the 1250, I think the improvement in handling is definitely good news. The top end zing that I was missing from the R1250, well, I've got it on this bike. And comfort, well, yeah, the R1250 was pretty comfortable, but it's all a compromise. With the R1250, I had no fairing, so that was uncomfortable at speed. For this bike, I've got a fairing, but a wacky seat. which might be uncomfortable over distance. I'm impressed with the suspension. It's a low suspension model. You might be concerned that it hasn't got a lot of suspension travel. I'm finding it well damped. You got road damping mode and dynamic damping. And so far I'm mostly using it on road and got no complaints even when I'm going quicker, round bends on bumpy roads. Still seems really well behaved. Seems to mostly also deal with potholes and bits where the tarmac's been ripped up, those little patches where the top surface is gone. Seems to handle those and damp those quite well as well. So it seems to go fast and go slow pretty well with the road damping. Oh yeah, vibration. Here's another thing. This S1000XR has had a bit of a reputation for being quite vibey. There are at some revs for certain vibes felt through the seat, at the tank, in the pegs and in the bars. But so far I find this bike acceptably smooth overall. I don't find it annoyingly vibratory. It doesn't vibrate too much for me at all. Now, over a longer distance, things might start going numb and start tingling, but I haven't been on a longer distance yet, so that will come in time as I get to know the bike. But so far, I've got no issue with vibration on this machine. Even the mirrors aren't too bad most of the time. Am I glad to have moved to this bike from the R1250? Yes. Is it perfect? No. Could it be better? Yes. Will I make it better? I'm gonna bloody try. Now I've already got a track day lined up for this beastie. I had some vouchers left over from last year, so I've used those to pay for a track day on August Bank Holiday Monday at Donington Park. That's the MSV track day. I'm also planning to book up another track day, so 2 track days this year on this bike. That's the plan. The other one is going to be Saturday, I think 10th of August at Bedford Autodrome. So both tracks I've been to before on the R1250. Can't wait to find out what this bike's like on track. I really can't. And then at the end of September, my intention is to go riding in Europe. Now I've ridden in Europe before, but it's mainly just to directly get somewhere, namely a racetrack, to watch MotoGP or World Superbike, something like that. But I've never really toured in Europe, so I would like to hopefully take in the Picos in September, towards the end of September, and then potentially meet some friends in Italy, somewhere near Milan, for the World Superbike race at Cremona. I think it's Cremona, the way you say it. I just have to plan it. I don't think you have to do much planning to ride in Europe nowadays. Just make sure you got all your documents, breakdown cover, that sort of thing, insurances. So that's my plan in September, all being well. I'll tell you what, when you've been riding slow for a while, you get lulled into a full sense of security with this bike. It feels docile, well behaved, tractable because it's a 4-cylinder engine. But when you wind the throttle back and that 165 bhp at the crank comes into play, damn, it shocks me. So more comparisons with the R1250 as we go forward. Other things might just pop into my head and go, oh yeah, the R1250 did this, or this does this thing in a different way. So stay tuned for that, if you care. Well, if you're on my channel, the 1250 probably was interesting. Hopefully you'll find this other BMW interesting as well. Oh, other things, yes. Now, I'm going to be fitting the GS911 to it, which I had with the R1250. And with that comes the potential for data logging. So I'm looking forward to using that on a track day. Oh, I love this happening on both feet, flat on the floor, with my 32-inch inside leg. Absolute stability and confidence when I come to a stop. So I have mentioned that, in my opinion, that Euro 5 is kind of holding this bike back in the mid-range. Sometimes you open up the throttle, you don't get maybe the acceleration you'd hope for. But that's not to say that the bike's weak. If you get the revs right, maybe about 4,000–5,000 RPM, second, third gear, you accelerate and it goes really quick. And because you got smaller internals, those smaller pistons going up and down in smaller cylinders compared to my 1250, the acceleration's quick and it feels angry. It's addictive. So it's a big thumbs up from me for this bike so far. Any downsides? Well, mostly it's the mid-range, the lack of mid-range. So I think the ECU flash and the DCAT will be my attempt to make this bike perform how it should, the way it should have left the factory. Hashtag don't tell Greta. So thanks for hanging out with me in this video. Plenty more to come on this bike. See you down in the comments and take care of yourselves. I'll see you in another video soon. Ta-da.